you're looking for a man...
Not taking a shortcut before.
With the right moves.
Nice, good vocal work. Let's all try it together, shall we? 1, 2...
The right lines.
The only thing that will redeem mankind is cooperation.
Good luck!
And the right partner. ML and Marc.
2 seconds. And hold it there.
Don't
Sorry.
call Shawn.
Oi!
Shawn.
Oh.
Shawn of the Dead.
You ass interrogator, you bring it out of my face. It's gone.
What are you doing?
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now?
Hey, kids, it's your unloved, useless, and discarded husk, ML Elric.
Uh-oh, what's going on?
The soul of Detroit.
Why are you so bummed out? Shawn, you took your glasses off. You can't see? Or you can finally see who you are.
Well, I can see clearly now the fog is gone. Or the rain. Was it? Something like that. We'll have that in room 5609, where we bring back great songs from the 70s. But Kevin...
No. That'd be too nice.
Kevin pretty much sums it up here. Best episode of the Shawn Windsor show yet last week. So
He said Shawn Windsor show?
the Shawn, apparently a lot of people think that Shawn is the star of this show.
No.
And obviously,
Well, last week it was Belvin.
I'm just a sack of potatoes over here.
obviously, I'm the sun around which these satellites revolve. But there's some misguided people out there who think that it's
It says ML in the title,
It's Shawn.
right? What's L, by the way?
Oh, great question.
Lacmorose.
Lactose?
No, I'm lacmose and intolerant.
Oh, I think I know what it is.
What is
I'm
L?
not gonna say, it's not my place to say.
Yeah, go ahead. What's L?
Can I say?
Come on,
I
Larry.
mean, he's had his check stolen, his identity
It's
stolen.
unloved.
Isn't it Lewis?
It is Lewis.
Okay.
Lewis. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. You didn't know that?
No, I couldn't.
It's crazy.
I
was
couldn't
just
remember
thinking,
it. It's been a long time.
It's crazy how long we've been doing this show together, and then we just learned last week about Belvin. You know, because we don't know much about you, Shawn. You're a hard rock to crack. Do you crack rocks? You're a hard egg to crack.
I like the scrambled eggs.
Okay.
Now we apparently,
Apropos of nothing. That's nice to know.
while we learn more about Shawn and we learn more about Belvin, I asked Shawn, did he tell his stepdad about last week's show? I asked him to listen to it, and he said he suffered an injury, and I'm wondering, was it because he fell out of his chair when he heard Shawn being so engaging and dynamic and basically just kind of taking over?
That's how it's got to be, I guess, right?
Is that what?
That's how
happened?
you have to be.
No. I'm just wondering. This was.
I don't know. He probably got headbutted by a goat. No, I don't.
Okay, there's another.
Yeah,
Not the owl.
He's got goats, and he's got a stick to.
Of course he does.
To keep him off.
Damn. Well, there were some people who would love to hear from Belvin sometime, so maybe we'll have him on. But there are a lot of
He
people.
did take a fall, and he is not going to Oklahoma City for the family reunion.
Oh,
so
no.
I am not going to see him in a few weeks.
Really?
No.
You can't divert off and take a little side trip?
I suppose I could, but his whole family is going to be in Oklahoma City, and this was his goal in reaching out of the blue about 10 years ago after not having talked to me and my brother for 20. Was to you get to a certain age in life and you look back and you're like maybe
I'm
would
still
like
waiting for that, but yeah.
maybe like to do a few things differently.
No regrets.
So I get a call from him out of the blue just about a decade ago saying, hey, you want to go to Costa Rica? I'm like, is this Randy? Randy's just, how he goes by. And so he says, yes, I'm serious. So I call my brother. Can I cuss on this show?
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
And I called my brother and I said, hey, Randy wants us to go to Costa Rica. Again, keep in mind, no conversation in 2 decades. And this is the first conversation. And Kevin, my brother, says, what the fuck?
Well,
There's quite a lot of salty language there in the Windsor household.
and he didn't offer the families or anything. I mean, he wanted to pay for everything, which was, that was fine. That was nice.
Well, and that's a yes. Just go.
But he just wanted my brother and I, and then he has 2 other sets of kids. So just the kids, and no families, no grandkids, nothing like that.
Are you closer to that age where you're having regrets?
Oh, I've had regrets since I was
really
a teenager. You never did anything in high school that you regretted?
Well, small things that don't really matter.
You're really asking Shawn if he has regrets.
I mean, come on.
Do you have
Well,
joy?
in the position he's in.
I mean, Mike doesn't have any regrets, but I would bet you have some, Mark.
Nah, that's funny.
You didn't do anything in high school you immediately felt bad about, or?
Oh yeah, but I don't regret that I did it. I lived and learned.
Well, yeah, you always live in
minor crimes that I didn't get busted for.
What do you mean by minor crimes?
Just things things kids do, and now I realize, boy, what an asshole, or how terrible that was, and you live and learn. But I don't regret it.
Wow.
No, should I? Am I a bad person for not regretting it?
I guess it did.
I wish I could go back and change it.
I guess it depends on what you mean by regret.
I don't think I've ever harmed any individual too terribly.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
That's good. I
you know what I mean?
Did and regret it, but
well, harm in what? Boy, this is getting really weird.
Harm in mostly property, mostly property.
Well, that's what I mean. But it's.
I'm glad to know you have empathy, Mike. I mean, I knew that.
Well,
I shouldn't say it like that.
No, I know. I am the ego. You are the id. Together, we make one fully formed human being. It's sort of like
a little wobbly.
It's sort of like George and Jerry. Together, they could make one woman happy.
Well, yeah.
Working full time.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a wobbly human being, but we're okay. No regret. Let's get back to you.
No, my mom asked. It's funny you brought that up because my mom asked me this weekend if I regretted. Because we were talking about my school choices of where I was accepted for college.
Oh, clearly one major regret.
Well, no, because she's like, do you regret ever not going to Northwestern? I'm like, no, because if I didn't go to Michigan, it wouldn't be like I like who I am. I'm fine with who I am. I've accepted that. I wouldn't have worked here. I wouldn't have met my wife. Why would I regret not going to Northwestern? Or she mentioned like I could have played football at John Carroll. I was like, no, I was just done playing. I didn't want to play anymore. I mean, now I kind of regret it. I kind of wish I would have played.
Even with those calves, you would have been a good center.
I guess that is the one regret that I didn't. But at that time, I'm fully happy with that.
But you still have your eligibility. You could go back and play.
Yeah. I understand what you mean.
Bend over.
They're rebuilding.
I understand what you mean. Like I got busted. A friend of mine and I got busted. We were in a car. Remember back in the days when, or maybe you don't, but high schools used to have fan buses for away games for football games. Like they'd fill up a school bus on a Friday night, and maybe a couple of them if it was a big enough game. And we drove. A friend of mine and I drove, and on the way back, we slowed down and let the fan bus pass it, and he hung his butt out the window, pants down.
Sure, whatever.
To moon the bus, whatever. It's no big deal.
Silly, stupid.
If we'd stopped right there, we would have been fine. But the problem was we then sped up.
Oh, boy.
We sped up. We switched drivers at 70 miles an hour. This is back when,
sure.
bench seats, and you can just kind of slide. We slid underneath
just like
each
the movie
other.
Speed.
And switched drivers, we're 16 or whatever, and then slowed down, and then I mooned the bus. Well, there was a parent on the bus who realized that was 2 different asses hanging out, and they radioed ahead. It was CB days, right?
Yeah.
They were called CBs, right?
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Citizens Band Radio.
Yep.
There you go. I knew you would know that.
Did
It's
did
like
the rubber duck have the hammer down?
yeah, it's like Mike Lewis.
Were there smokies out there waiting for you?
Sean's in a big old convoy.
That's right.
But yeah, so they CB'd ahead. So there was somebody when we get off the interchange, what do you call it? Interstate exchange. And tracked us down. We thought, oh shit, somebody's following us. So we pull into a grocery store parking lot. This is in Champaign, Illinois. And we try to hide. He finds us. He runs up to us and he says, "You boys are in a lot of trouble." They call the principal. The principal, calls my parents. My dad took the car away for a year, and we got kicked out of school for a little bit.
Yeah, but
they didn't care about the mooning.
Yeah.
What they cared about. And what my father cared about was
not good wipers.
Is that we switched drive? Yeah, right.
Oh.
Yeah, that was obvious. You could see.
Yeah,
gross. Don't
should have
start
used that
talking
Charmin
about
extra strong.
Come on, man. Do we have to talk about dingleberries? So we got.
We weren't going to.
And if my kids had done that, I would have been mad at the exact same thing.
Oh, sure.
What he was pissed about was that we did something that could have killed us. He didn't care about the mooning at all. I don't regret doing that. To your point.
Yeah.
right?
But-
We
well,
got in trouble, whatever.
It's the ultimate
But
irony.
I do have some things that I regret for sure. in
Really?
high school. Yeah.
Here's-
What's the ultimate irony?
Here are the two things that Shawn regrets the most. First of all, and I reviewed
This podcast?
because it's on the internet. I was able to get a copy of the police report. The way Shawn and his friend were identified at this grocery store is they still had their pants down.
Yeah.
So it was, like anybody see a couple of bare ass guys in here? And the other thing was several of the mothers recognized Shawn's derriere because he was quite the man about town there in Champaign. He was very
No,
cosmopolitan.
that didn't happen until I was in Texas.
That you were tapping the mothers.
No,
on
I
your
was
nights?
I wasn't tapping anybody, but that did happen a couple of times when it made me uncomfortable, to be honest with you. I was 17 and she was like 45 or whatever.
What I was going to say about
Whoa,
the
what happened? This is don't mess with Texas.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Mark?
the ultimate irony is telling your kids not to do things that you did or something similar to it, right? Because do your kids know that story?
I probably told them when they started driving because I didn't want them to switch drivers. Randy Belvin, by the way, we're in New Orleans, and this time, and I'm a senior in high school at this point. This is now in Texas. We're on our way to see his brother in Florida. We're driving from Dallas to South Florida or whatever, or maybe the Panhandle. I can't remember. Anyway, we're going through New Orleans. He says, "Hey, let's go off and see New Orleans." I'm in a van. It's a windowless, one of those extra long vans. What'd you call it?
A prison van. Yeah, we know.
basically.
Yeah.
And
Because of the
there's a
mooning.
windshield and a window at the passenger. And
A pedo van.
Yeah, that's it. And no other windows, maybe out the back. Anyway, he and my mom are in the back on, there's nothing in it. And they're just on blankets or whatever, making noises I didn't want to hear. My brother's up front. What? So he's like, he's has a little bit too much whiskey in him. And he's like, let's pull into New Orleans. Let's drive through downtown New Orleans.
This is going.
So he's like, slow down, slow down. And again, keep in mind there are no windows except for what's next to me. I'm driving. I'm probably
Who said slow
Fogged
down?
up
Your
by
mom?
now.
Randy says, slow down, slow down. Downtown New Orleans, it's over the holidays. He gets up, he stumbles up, and climbs over my lap, and while I'm driving, and pulls his pants down and hangs his ass out the window.
In New Orleans.
In downtown New Orleans. So there you go.
Not a place for
What's going on in the
tourists
back of
to
the
get
A
frisky.
retired American hero fighter pilot, right? And
Yeah.
he's a little bit tipsy and figures that's a good lesson to teach.
Now, what about the time that he and Goose changed seats in the plane, where Belvin was the pilot, then he became the navigator? Did he get admonished for that?
Yeah.
Did Viper get mad at him for that?
That would be a little tricky, wouldn't it? You'd probably have to blow the canopy off and then climb over
I think he could
at
do
the
it.
speed of sound. Mark could probably do it with those with all those.
Stop ogling. Ooh, is it oogling or ogling? Oogling my calves.
It's inappropriate. It's not as inappropriate as Shawn's dalliance with a middle-aged woman.
No, that was not a dalliance. What I'm saying is she kept trying to get me to come up to her house, and it was scary, to be honest with you.
Shawn, have you ever been arrested?
Yes.
Care to talk about it?
Have you ever been arrested?
I've never been arrested.
No, I was on a motorcycle. It was a bunch of tickets and expired stuff, and I got pulled over, and I had been drinking, and actually they didn't give me. This is in Texas in the early '80s, so they didn't really give a shit if you were drinking. They had you could drive and drink.
Oh, yeah.
Back then, I don't know. Was that ever true here in Michigan?
I think you could have an open container in
Not
the
in my
car
life.
at some point, but not, probably not since the 70s.
Yeah, but it wasn't any big deal. I mean, it was a big deal, I guess, because but they took me to jail and spent the night, and then my buddies came and bailed me out.
I have one rule about riding a motorcycle is never drink. No drinking before you get on a bike.
I mean, I wasn't drunk. I had a couple of beers or whatever, but
Yeah, I know, but
I was worried
You're
that
going 90 miles an hour down the road and you have a little wobble. If
No,
you have a
this
little
was
wobble
a-
already,
this
you're
was
gonna,
a-
you're going to be an organ donor.
this was a little 250 Suzuki Enduro, on off road with the big knobby tires, and so you weren't doing 90 on anything.
See, I came close to that. I had to do the whole field sobriety test and blow. And Ann Arbor's Finest said, "Why don't you go into that parking lot, park your car, call a cab, and go home?" I was like, "Wow, that is a deal."
Wow.
I will
Really?
take-
So how did you
I
get
will
out of
take-
that?
Well, I must have.
Were you in shorts?
I must have.
Is that what happened?
First off, come on. I aced the sobriety test. That's what that. But I must have blown like right on the line or something for enough to have. me
So
tell me to sleep.
when that
was years ago.
So that's just the Ann Arbor cops. So Xavier Simpson, so it's just
Well, he probably got off. He was probably a little worse than I was. Worse for wear than I was.
You see the guy who got pulled over in the AD's wife's car?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
That story kind of came out, but then never really.
Yeah.
It didn't have any legs, did
You'll
it?
do.
Yeah, another reason to tear down the Beauchamp Beckler statue and the Ward Emanuel statue.
Anyway, yes.
Without sin.
No regret at all.
No, not really. I mean, I had been to court. I've never it was for a ticket, like noise violation. All that was a fun day. Certain things like that, but never arrested. No regrets. I don't know. Pretty happy with where I'm at. Pretty lucky.
Yeah. How about you, Mikey?
That guy's been arrested tons of times.
No. Have you been arrested and do you have regrets?
I think there's a difference between being arrested and being taken into custody.
Okay.
I don't want to parse it too
Please
finely.
explain this one.
So you sat in the back of a car with handcuffs and then got let go before you actually went to jail.
No, it was just told, drive to the station or it'll get bad. But that was fine. No problems. Everything worked itself out.
It's all public record. You can share. You wouldn't do it again.
I wouldn't do that again. No, that was a bad idea.
What was it?
Very bad. It involved trying to outrun what seemed like the entire contingent of a small suburban police department.
Keep going. Keep going.
It was one of those. This episode is brought to you by. Is it time to read the sponsors?
Come on, there's got to be
by Chico's
Mark,
Bail Bonds,
can't he keep
sponsors
going?
of this show and the
Mark,
Bad News
Statute of
Bears.
limitations.
Yeah, help me out here.
So we were. I mean,
This wasn't like last week, was it?
I don't want to answer that.
Oh.
But we people used to play this game Chase where you drive around and, try and keep up with the other guys. And I had borrowed my grandparents' car and it was a V8, which is great. And I was there. I was a boulevard and my friend was following me and we're coming up to the turnaround in the middle of this long street. And I knew this street. And I knew my friend didn't know this street, and I thought, well, I'm just going to go as fast as I can. And when I hit the turnaround, I'm going to lock him up, throw the wheels. We're going to fishtail. I'm going to jet right down the other way, pass him. He'll never, we'll turn the corner and we win. So all that was executed remarkably well. And as we're going down the other side of the boulevard, the kid with me looks over and sees an unmarked car following my friend, and I said, what are we going to do? Or what should we do? And my mind was just a complete empty space. And he said, lose them. And I was like, okay. So I'm not blaming him. My mind was a blank and something was put in there. And it was my decision to say, okay, that's the option. We're not going to go through the decision tree and see if there's a better option. So I knew a friend of mine lived around the block. So I gunned it. We got to the corner, hit, barely touched the brakes, take another 90-degree turn, take another 90-degree turn, pull in the driveway, turn off the lights and duck down low and kind of look out the side window. And we see the cops don't take the second turn. They keep going by, but then they realize there's nobody in front of them. So then they kind of creep back. And then all of a sudden the whole driveway is blocked in with all these cops and they've got their guns drawn and get out of the car, drop the keys, put your hands where you can see them, all that other stuff. And when they realized it was just like two 17-year-old assholes who combined probably weighed 200 pounds, it was just another terrible night in suburbia for cops who could have lit us up. And back then probably would have lit us up if we didn't look like we looked like. And just don't get back, get in the car and drive to the police station. So we did, which was nearby. And then our parents were contacted.
How'd that go?
Were admonished. They weren't pleased.
But not too bad.
There may have been some grounding involved. I can't remember. I'd been grounded many times for vehicular transgressions. And one time I got grounded and I had a paint job that I had to do. And a friend of mine was with us and I needed the car to go to the job because it was in Detroit and it was quite a ways from my house. And my mom was like, no, you're grounded. You can't. I said, why? This is how I make money. I got to do this paint job. And she said, nope. And I said, well, what if I have my friend drive me? She's like, okay, yeah, we can do that. And so my friend was like, what did you get me into? He's like, I said, you just got to drive me to the job. That's all. Don't worry about it, And he says, okay. So my mom drives over to the house. My baby sister's strapped in a car seat in the back. And my buddy gets in the car and we're going to drop my mom and sister off. Then he's going to take me to the paint job. it's possible maybe we're going to switch drivers. I can't remember exactly how elaborate this plot was. And he gets in the car. He can't drive a stick. So his first time driving a stick is with us in there, and the car is lurching it's a K car with a 4 on the floor. The car is lurching all the way down the street. And I'm just like, oh shit, I'm in more trouble now. And my baby sister, who barely said anything at that time, I mean, she didn't have a lot of words. She just calls from the back. She says, "What's happening?" and they're like, "It's okay." And it all worked out. But yeah, I was a real idiot with cars when I was a kid, and I'm glad that no one got hurt and that I didn't get hurt. So I do have regrets that I was such an idiot. But
who in this area weren't an idiot with a car a time or two?
Well, no kid wants to drive a car now. You have kids who get to be 20 years old without their driver's license. The minute I got mine, I wanted to see how fast this thing could go.
It really is something how that's changed. I told you about the time I got...
That was freedom because you couldn't connect with your friends otherwise. If you're on the phone too long, they'd charge you by the minutes. Your parents would scream at you. You're stretching the phone cord around into your bedroom, and then your dad or stepdad's like, "You've messed up the phone cord again. I don't want to keep buying these phone cords." If you wanted to see people, you had to get out.
Well, first the bicycle was freedom, and then when you got to a certain age, the car was, right? Even more freedom.
When you get to high school, people live pretty far away. So getting there with a bike, and if you're cruising around on a weekend, what are you going to like a bike convoy? It's like nobody's going to let you into a kegger if you're all right up on bikes.
I told you about the story with about a beat-up old 77 Honda Accord, a rifle, and a Church of Christ cult.
No, I think I would have remembered that one. But do tell.
Go ahead.
And it does involve Belvin.
It does.
In a roundabout way.
Well, we don't need to.
I don't want to repeat myself, so I don't remember.
I would not know that one.
Because we're talking about cars, right?
Get to it.
The story doesn't really, the car is sort of beside the point.
I like the cult aspect.
Yeah, that's probably not fair. But anyway, so a girlfriend in high school belonged to a Church of Christ congregation, and her parents were very, 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 very
These are very strict, right? No drinking.
No drinking.
Snake handling, all that stuff.
No dancing.
Oh, no dancing.
Yeah, no hand holding, nothing, right? Yeah. Very, very.
They didn't
dour.
mind that she was 45 and you were 17.
She was a teacher.
She was a year older. She was a senior, and I was a junior, and they didn't approve of
grew
me
up in Cougar
because
Town?
I had a stepfather, right, and it came from a divorced home, so they didn't approve of that. So they didn't approve of me, and plus I wasn't part of the Church of Christ community. I was just a lowly Presbyterian, and even then that was sort of part time. In any case, so we had to sneak around to see each other. So I would climb out the window and drive my bike. This is
a Schwinn Stingray with a banana seat.
And I had a car. I had a 77 hatchback Accord that was smashed in on the front and the back that I got for very little money, made payments on it while I cooked at Kentucky Fried Chicken, but that's neither here nor there. So I would sneak over on my bike and then climb up a radio tower in the backyard and in her window, and we'd do that. Well, we got caught.
We do that. What's that?
No, that's how we would hang out.
Okay.
So because we could drive, and then one time I was living in Fort Worth. We drove over to Dallas to go see a game or something, and we got back a little bit too late. And her father worked at General Dynamics, where Belvin worked. He sold F-16s to Malaysia and Thailand and so on and so forth at that time. And her father was some kind of
dealer.
He basically was an arms dealer. And her father was like a desk guy, with a short sleeve collar shirt and the pencils in the pocket, but very, very devout. And we got back late.
Flat top?
Yeah, and he was waiting for me and walked out when we pulled up because we weren't supposed to be seeing each other, and started screaming at me. And then the mom comes out in a robe. "You're going to wake up the neighbors. You're going to wake up the neighbors. Pipe down, pipe down."
Was it a kimono?
It's just a terry cloth back robe. Yeah,
There's a
I'm
belt
not sure
on it?
they had any connection. But anyway, so there's a whole scene.
I didn't know what else Belvin was selling.
So there's a whole scene, and then the next day, and Randy had always told me he didn't care if I saw her or not. He just didn't want to be bothered with anything, And he said, just keep it out of my hair. So the next day, he goes to see Randy at work, and that was a no-no. So Randy gets home that night, and he says, "If you ever drive over there again, I will take my rifle and shoot your car up." So yeah, there you go. And that did not stop us from seeing each other. She eventually left me, and that's how that goes, right? So Yeah.
She graduated and became a manager at the Kentucky Fried Chicken, and there was a strict no, consorting with the help.
By the way, I have a question for you, Mark. Were you an original guy or extra crispy?
Probably extra crispy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too.
Who am I phone? I'll eat anything.
I was a Red Barn guy.
Were you?
I always liked Red
I was a Church's Chicken guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not conservative church.
Yeah, not Church of
No,
Christ.
no. You've seen Speaking in Tongues and that sort of thing, right? You've been to Pentecostal churches?
Oh man,
I've seen it on TV.
Yeah, I've been to those churches too.
I have been in churches where members of the congregation were moved to exuberance, but not quite speaking in tongues.
I had a high school theology teacher that would speak in tongues. That was fun.
That sounds interesting.
In Columbus?
Huh? No.
Or in Ann Arbor?
Ann Arbor.
Oh, in Ann Arbor. Okay.
Yeah,
When were you in
Catholic
Columbus?
school. Huh? I was born in Columbus,
But
but
I
I
know,
moved
but
when I
how
was 6
long?
months. I was a baby. I was an infant.
They spoke in tongues as like a lesson, or this is
No,
something?
it just hit him, and
Oh.
it was like, oh, okay, well, that's weird.
Is this like one
I
of
mean,
these?
you're a high school kid.
Is this like one of these TV reporters on the street who all of a sudden just start, spewing weird stuff because they're so stressed out? Or they? Or
No,
is this,
no, it would be almost like he would go back to his desk and sit down and close his eyes and do it. And then, of course, you're sitting there supposed to do the assignment that was just given. You're kind of like, what are you doing?
And would he say anything? Like, sorry,
No,
I
it was all
moved by this-
gibberish. No, it was totally normal. He was the theology teacher. It was a certain sect of Catholicism that was really strict and out there.
You know what, by the way, what the best part of that night
Sure
was?
about the totally normal part.
The best part of
Well,
that
it
night,
became
by the
normal.
way, real quickly, this is, you'd appreciate this. The game was the Mavericks Celtics. It was the early 80s, and we
Yeah.
went to see Larry Bird, and that was awesome.
Huge. Yeah.
So that was
Was it?
Yeah, that was it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Did you ever see him play?
Bird?
Yeah.
In person?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Absolutely. I hated him. Hated Larry Bird.
But you respected him.
No, I just flat out. I mean, I was younger, so I really, really hated him because you're a kid. But then I realized if he was on my team, oh my God, I would love this guy. As I got older, I really, really liked him. Same with Magic. I never really liked Magic either. And now I like Magic, I like Bird, and I cannot stand Isaiah Thomas.
Ooh, well, Isaiah
I don't think Isaiah is the greatest of guys. Sorry.
he was the kind of guy who was win at all costs. I mean,
There's some off the court stuff. See, we know too much about players and athletes now that
Yeah.
kind of ruins it. It's like, why did I ever root for that guy? Well, I didn't know because he played on my team and he was really good.
Yeah, sometimes you don't want to know about
apologize
athletes
for
or
it.
actors. Right?
I don't want to know anything.
I don't
about
cover
him.
sports or entertainment because I love them both, and I don't want to
Don't wanna
know
learn.
who's involved because I won't love it. But I will say this. I've often criticized Matt Stafford because I've said he's not an Isaiah Thomas type leader, and an Isaiah Thomas type leader kills guys who won't. And I don't think Steve Eisman was quite as nasty as Isaiah Thomas, but he was not an inspirational, cuddly captain.
No peach. He was no peach.
No, he was one of those guys where I think if you weren't doing what you were supposed to do, it was known, and maybe in a nonverbal way, but there was no sort of like, come on, buck up, little feller, we'll get it done. I think, and those guys, that's why I think some of these great sports icons we have that we love, if they were your neighbor, you'd be like, oh, jeez.
Yeah, but there's a
asshole.
difference when you're in that building or between the lines or on the ice than how you are off of it or on the court.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I mean, I think one of the things that I love about sports is when they're played well, even if they're played hard, that you line up and you shake hands, and hopefully that's okay.
Ooh, that reminds me of another question that I want to ask Sean Windsor.
Yes.
But first, I want to tell you because
yes,
I
please.
don't want to forget.
Can we
about
talk about the arrogant asses after you to read?
it. It will segue into that.
Okay.
I thought that was Sean
Maybe.
Windsor.
Isn't that the name of the show? No, you know who's not
Carlos
arrogant?
an ass.
No arrogance, no asses at Hall Financial. Call hallfirst.com. Those are the people you want to talk to. If you're going to refinance, maybe the rates aren't as great as they had been maybe in the past decade or 15 years or so, but you can get money out of your house right now. If you need money, you can get a home equity line. They have cash out refinancing. You can unlock thousands of dollars today. Cash out refinance from Hall Financial, 866-CALL-HALL, or chat online at callhallfirst.com. See what they can do. See what they can do for you. Give them a call. Very quick. You've used them, ML. You love them.
I have, yes, and you can find a link to their website at our website, which is mlsoulofdetroit.com. And when you talk to our sponsors, please let them know that you called them because you heard about them on the show. It's a great way to support the show. and to support some people that we have confidence in.
And one of those guys is Luke Nowacki. Give him a call, 248-663-4748. Luke Nowacki is the finance guy. He's the guy you're going to want to talk to. Get a plan for your finances, stocks, bonds, equities. What are you going to do with it? He will help you out. He is a member of FINRA, FINRA, and SIPC. He's a fiduciary, so he will get your your money positioned so it will make more money for you. Once again, Luke Nowacki. He'll give you a complimentary consultation, 248-663-4748, or you can once again click on the link on the site.
And the thing is, when you call Luke, he'll make it all about you, sweetheart.
Oh, that's right.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates Inc. Member FINRA SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and/or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates Inc.
No, the question I had that popped up, and it might have been Eli that was talking about it, how Dan Campbell is this really big hard ass and driver, and so there's been all these stories recently about Mike Zimmer up in Minnesota and his toxic environment because he was such a hard-ass coach. And it's that age-old question of is that going to exist going forward? Are the Bobby Knights ever going to exist? And my first thought was, well, yeah, it's how some people want to be driven like that, don't they? Or is that just done, these hard-ass coaches that treat you like shit on the field and yell at you?
I think the Bobby Knights of the world are absolutely done, especially in basketball.
But what is the line there as to what's acceptable? Because if you have a trainer, you want a trainer to push you.
No, you can get pushed, but you got to push 1 minute and then put the arm around the shoulder the next. I mean, that's what you have to. It takes it's a.
You have to win too. I think winning.
Well, of course you have to win. I mean, yes, you have to win, but it's a very narrow space to operate in if you're going to be a yeller screamer. And Izzo can do that.
Yeah,
Izzo still pulls that off. I would argue he's not quite Bobby Knight, though, right? I mean,
no. But does it make a difference between younger and older players? Because I heard Brad Richards, who played briefly with the Detroit Red Wings, talking about playing for John Tortorella in Tampa Bay, who is one of the strictest coaches ever. I mean, just no charm whatsoever. Drills these guys. They run camps where it's like a boot camp, and then he's an asshole throughout the season. But he said, we won cups.
Yeah.
He made me better. And I don't know that he enjoyed that at the time, but when he had a chance to be a free agent, he went to a team that Tortorella was coaching because he's like, okay, I know what this guy can get out of us. And I wonder if younger guys are like, wow, this shit, and older guys say, hey, I've played on lots of teams where the coach was my friend and we came in last.
Depends on the young guy, right? I mean, because
but does
people that
age
go to
make
state
a difference for the player? Does the player say, I'll play for whoever? If they like Scotty Bowman, nobody likes Scotty. Dino Cicerelli was talking about Scotty Bowman. I thought the guy hated me, but I wish I'd stayed on his team because they won and I didn't win a cup with any of the other coaches.
I don't know that it's age as much as how you're raised and what you can handle and the kind of coaching you like, right?
Well, Cicerelli says his dad was, he wouldn't necessarily call him an asshole, but one of those overbearing dads who's like, you scored 3 goals, you could have had 4.
I think there's
3's pretty good, Dad.
I think it's kind of, I'm not sure that it's true that young people don't want that kind of coaching anymore. And in fact, I think they do to some because they like the structure, right? And you want to get pushed. But there's a way to be tough and not be a prick, right? And, Bobby Knight came across, especially in his later years, as just mean. The Tampa coach,
unhinged.
Yeah,
and throwing chairs,
and unpredictable. You got to be predictable too. If you're going to be tough, you need to be predictable. Because if you're ducking for cover every day, that doesn't lead to stability, and that's not good for team cohesiveness. And I would argue that Tampa coach is probably really predictable, and in his expectation and what he wants, and that's the thing.
I think that's what I like about Dan Campbell because there were scenes in Hard Knocks where he was kind of like that, like you guys suck. You're just kind of riding them pretty hard, but former player, so they kind of know.
And then watch him during the stretches.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of.
What does that mean? I haven't watched this. I mean, tell people who haven't seen.
Talking individually, walking by, patting guys on the shoulder, but hey, how you doing?
He's participating in some of the calisthenics.
That too. But just there's a warmth in that moment, so the players know.
He seems like a player, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, no, he does. So and that's the fine. I mean, there are all sorts of different ways to coach and have success. But I was
just surprised when I saw all that Zimmer stuff. I'm like, really? The Vikings, they're pretty good they were fairly good under him.
He's a big yeller. He's a big yeller for sure.
But when you see multimillionaires who play professional football come out and complain that their coach created a toxic environment, a lot of people don't want to hear that.
Greg Popovich, the Spurs coach, who was a military guy, right? Mm-hmm. He used to yell a lot more than he does, and he's talked about how he's changed. And a lot of coaches will tell you, you don't reach kids. Their psychology backs this up too in the way you get the most out of people. I mean, fear is definitely one way, but a lot of folks would argue
positive reinforcement, but you can be a hard ass with positive.
You can, and that's the key, right? You can still get stuff with people from fear, but ultimately, I think you're capped. And I do think your original question, I think we're moving on from that.
So to ML's question, how did you ignite the arrogant asses, as he said?
No, you tell me what you think.
Yeah, that's what was written in the
they're
rundown there.
Yeah, what'd you think?
They're arrogant asses in Amber.
Oh, good take.
No. I mean, I thought we talked on this show before about whether Harbaugh was, the right guy to settle a quarterback controversy, to pick the right quarterback, and he failed to pick a quarterback. And now after the first game, which was a resounding success, was it 51-7 or something like that? And the 7 that Colorado State scored was an own goal. It's a soccer reference, but anyway, football. But He's got his starting quarterback, a captain, saying in his first opportunity to address the media, I kind of thought I had a good kid.
He wasn't happy, was he? Cade McNamara, you're talking about.
And I don't think Caden McNamara helped himself at all, but I certainly understand his feeling is, what the hell's this?
Speaking of arrogant asses, I was an arrogant ass because I was at the game and didn't write about the quarterback issue, and I probably should have.
No, your column was much better.
That was the thing to write about, but...
I appreciated your column more than the other ones about the quarterbacks because it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's overanalyzation, and I could watch it. But to see, so Shawn wrote about these patsies that are coming in, and there just hasn't been enough. There's been enough outrage amongst, at least me personally, people I know and friends that are like, this is bullshit. I don't want to see these first 4 games at the big house. I want to go because it's an event, but I don't want to see Colorado State, Hawaii, Connecticut, and Maryland. It's just loser games, not competitive. But I haven't seen it as much in print from the press, so I was glad to see that, and I really like the responses to it. And I cannot believe people were supporting the fact that they scheduled these patsies.
Well, and remember, not too long ago, these D1 teams were scheduling D1 AA or whatever they would, Youngstown State and
Appalachia.
Yeah, that was a good game. But yeah, I mean, Michigan State played Youngstown State a couple years ago, and we played Jackson State, a historically black college. Now, I don't know if we want to play them with Deion there and the number 1 overall recruit.
Yeah, right.
And Deion's son, it sounds like, had a good game. But I mean, this is a tradition going back as far as you can think, where you bring in some team that has no chance and you just roll them. What's the fun in that?
The SEC
there isn't any.
I like the way the SEC does it because they schedule it late in the year, like it's a bye week almost. But how does the university defend this? Like, what is the defense? And it looks worse this year because of how bad Michigan's opponents are, even at that level.
And let's make clear, and I it's funny because I got a really angry email from a reader who said,
"Oh, great!"
Said you only pointed out once that Michigan's not the only school to do this. I'm like, well, how many times do I need to point that out?
Yeah, what is
you were at the Michigan
Mitch
game,
album
right?
now? He's like, Michigan is not the only team to do this. Paragraph. Michigan is not the only team to do this. Paragraph. Michigan is not the only team to do this. Final line. Michigan is not the only team to do this. You can see Mitch Albom speaking live, read his book, listen to his podcast, watch him on the radio, watch him on TV, go to his play, adopt one of his kids, all at mitchalbom.com.
Oh, boy. Yeah, Michigan's not the only one to do this, right?
We got 2 more coming.
No,
they are doing it.
They do it. They do it for what you said. It's still an event. They want an event. There are a few.
They want the gate, right?
They want the gate. So that's why they weigh it because they know that they're not going to get schools at their level to come. They're going to be able to wait their schedule and have 4 home or 3 home games, right? Like you're going to have to go and
I will
make it more equal that way.
I will point out there were a lot of the fan base was really pissed when they scheduled the game in Dallas against Alabama not because it was against Alabama, because it was
They couldn't go. Yeah,
it was in Dallas.
Inconvenient, right?
Yeah, it's
why,
a
why
neutral.
not schedule a home and home?
Yeah, that's the thing, to go home and home. Anyway, they want it because of the gate. They want it also the coaches, maybe not the coaches, but yes, the coaches and the athletic director. Because of the playoff system, right? So they want wins. Even though that's supposed to be weighted
Well,
at the
and
end of
big
the
wins.
end of the scene by that. Yeah,
Because
right.
Michigan State would always get penalized because D'Antonio's whole philosophy was as long as we stay within one score, it's a good game. It's like, meanwhile, Saban and these other guys are rolling up 72-0 or whatever, and Michigan State would let their foot off the gas, which I think was an honorable thing to do, and it ended up biting them in the ass. But the one thing about this, though, that when we talk about David and Goliath, I was really glad to see Central put up a decent score against Oklahoma State. I think that was 58-44 or something like that.
That was so misleading. It was like 44-7 at halftime.
Right, but remember when Oklahoma State played
lost
Central last time,
yeah.
and Gundy had him throw the ball out of bounds at the end, and Central won. I mean, when you do have a matchup like that, and I would argue the Old Dominion Virginia Tech game was one of those, except they did go to wherever Old Dominion
Gundy's the
is.
guy who said, "I'm a man," right?
Yeah, he's
I'm 40. Yeah,
I'm
now
a
he's
man.
like 50.
Yeah,
So
Still a man.
yeah,
he's still a man. Yeah.
still
Is
man.
it going to change anytime soon? Because you see on the schedule, they've scheduled Oklahoma and Texas towards the future with a home
The
and home.
college football playoff expansion, they're going to go to 12 teams. That could help a little bit, but I think the conference expansion is what theoretically could really, really help it. If the Big Ten gets to
your
20,
your division is really going to be your new conference. Isn't
well,
it?
if the Big Ten gets to 20 teams, let's say eventually, and then you split it into 10
you're
and
playing
10,
9 in your division.
9 in your division, and then you could argue that
over.
you need to play 1 or 2 on the other side, so that you might be left with 1 non-conference game. That would be ideal.
Yeah.
Screw you, Notre Dame, if that happens. Right?
I mean, that would be ideal, right?
Because that's how they sneak into all these schedules. Is they get a non-conference game, whereas if everybody's playing within their conference, Notre Dame's finally going to have to.
Well, and if you have an expanded playoff, you could say, okay, all Power 5 conferences get two teams in, and
I don't think the Big Ten needs Notre Dame. I wouldn't be surprised if the SEC gets them just to expand Northern. No thoughts? No.
Maybe the ACC brings them in to try and shore things up there because they're already.
Do they want to be at the ACC?
But the thing with with this expanded college playoff, and I want to talk about that for a minute, is if you do truly have a competitive college playoff, you're going to have. I think things could shift to the ISO model, which is we want to play our non-conference games against the teams we're going to play in March because we want to get our.
absolutely
Not necessarily our butt kicked, but we want to measure ourselves against the best early.
They would have to
so we know what we have to do.
They'd have to expand to more than 12 to
Maybe
get that,
one game, but
right?
yeah.
They'd have to expand
Yeah.
to more to 12 to get.
But if you're playing within your conference, if you're playing, a killer conference schedule as opposed to, we got Wisconsin next week, so let's make sure that we play. Let's make sure that we
for
play
sure.
Boise State or with
sure.
Wyoming. I mean, how many times is Wyoming going to come to East Lansing? It's like. I think the only reason they had Western on there is they have to have a team with brown as a major color scheme every season. It's either Wyoming or Western.
That's funny. But the 12 teams is still not enough probably to accomplish that. It really needs to go to like the Division 2 or 3 model, and they've had 24 or something like that.
Yeah.
That's probably where it will go eventually, I would think.
It's really funny too. I've heard so many people point out this provision because some people in the North don't want to play. They want to go to games in December because it's going to be really cold out. Which, first off, boo-hoo. Secondly, so there's this provision where you can move your game to a dome stadium, and I just started laughing. The idea that Michigan or even Michigan State would move it to Ford Field is just, it's laughable. It would never happen.
No, they'd want the advantage, right?
They're going to give up half of their gate.
Yeah, no, people would do it.
It could be like a classic, like one of these classic games that the historically black colleges have, where they go to a neutral site and it becomes a big show. But I would love to see some of these southern teams play in the North because I want to see how well Georgia does in Happy Valley.
They'll be fine.
You know what? And the NFL still has a few that you have to go play in that weather in December. Green Bay, Buffalo,
Minnesota. Well, Minnesota's
Cleveland.
a dome now.
Don't you think that's so overblown, though?
Pittsburgh's
What, the
outdoors?
weather?
Well, that a southern team can't play in the North.
No, I mean, I don't know if that is or not. I'm just saying people will show up for those games.
Yeah.
Right? They're used to it. If they do it in Green Bay, they'll do it at Michigan.
I think they get the advantage during bowl season because their fan base is a lot closer to those areas. They can drive and go to the game. But the idea that these kids can't play in snow is to me, kind of laughable.
No, I'm sure they can play in snow.
Well, I don't know. But how do you guys feel about this 12-team playoff? Because I've been in favor of expansion, But I've been thinking 6 teams. You give each Power 5 conference one team, and then you have an at-large, so you can have the Cincinnati gets in. Now, of course, that's all going to be screwed up when these conferences disintegrate. But
I'm a fan of more football, so
there was
that's why it's happening.
I think it's fine. 12 is fine.
There was this piece in the Atlantic,
It ought to be
the
16.
Athletic, talking about who would have qualified
Oh yeah.
for the playoffs if we'd had 12 teams.
This past year?
No, over the last 24 seasons since we got rid of the BCS and actually had the playoff.
98? No, that was the BCS began.
Yeah, it was 20. It's been 24 years. But here's some of the teams who would have made it.
How many years? 24.
24.
Western
What?
Michigan, Virginia, Tulane, Oregon State, Northern Illinois,
Yeah.
North Carolina, Miami of Ohio, Memphis, Kansas. The worst D1 college football team would have made the
but
playoff.
didn't they win the Orange Bowl that year?
They might have, but I mean,
that was Aqib Talib's team. He was at Kansas.
Oh,
Mark Mangino.
and he's a great broadcaster now.
Wake Forest would have made one. They would have made a playoff.
Yeah,
right? They're
and-
traditionally the worst team in Division One.
And so I look at this,
They
and,
produced Kenneth Walker.
and it's crazy.
Kind of.
I mean, it's absolutely crazy the caliber of teams that would end up being in the playoff. I think 12 is too many. Plus, I still feel like I still feel like these kids need to go to class at some point.
Why is 12 too many? You heard Shawn
We don't
just
want
say.
these kids playing forever.
So the division, the FBS kids are more important than the FCS kids who play in a regular bracketed
And
tournament.
don't have full scholarships.
It's fucking ludicrous.
When a Cincinnati goes crazy, well, first of all the money going into college football, I turn that money into college scholarships before we go to NIL, but that's another discussion.
Those are two different pots.
But when you have, anything's possible with college football with money. You can do whatever you want. You just have to want to do it. But when you have a
What?
team, everybody's like, oh, we can't do this. You can do whatever you want. There's no rules in
No,
college
you
football.
can do whatever you
Can't
want.
do what?
No, that's not true because I wouldn't be doing NIL.
Can't do what? You mean that the schools can't ask for NIL money?
Well, yeah, when you say there's different pots and stuff like
There
that,
are.
these guys can redefine everything.
NIL is just
Well-
private businesses.
And there's a slight crossover. There might be some people who donated to the university that would rather donate that money directly to players, which good.
Yeah, like
should.
Ishbia.
Yeah, good. He should.
Yeah, $500. I think that's great. But I think I lost my train of thought there.
You just don't like money in college football.
Well, that's true. That's absolutely true. At least I don't like money in college football that doesn't go back to the university. But I would. Oh no, that's what I was just going to say. Is I would put every kid on scholarship before I would make some of the kids millionaires and other kids tackling dummies.
May I say something? Your calic looks nice and sporty today. It looks good.
To those of you watching us on YouTube, you know exactly what Shawn's talking about, and you can subscribe to our channel. Shawn, I can't believe how seamless this is. You should subscribe to YouTube channel ML Elric so that every time we start, which is always an open question, you'll get a notification and an alert that says these idiots are finally ready to go. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And people have asked about, can I donate through YouTube? We would love to accept your money through YouTube. We have to get to 1,000 subscribers. I think we're around 200. So please, even if you don't want to
Tell a
watch the
friend.
show on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can always get the full audio download wherever you like to get your podcasts. And if you get the full audio download, you get the full show because we usually come off of YouTube before we get to our new wave music segment because Facebook kicks us off if we play music because Facebook hates anything beautiful.
Oh man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek, or we're turning into cool guys?
So I just had one more thing to say about money in college football before we move on. Shawn and Marc are wrong. Now let's get to our Geek of the Week, which is the FBI. Now, we've been criticized for being too cozy with the FBI, for pretending that federal law enforcement never makes a mistake and all that other stuff, and I don't think that's true or fair. So this isn't really a make good, but we do have to point out where federal law enforcement has gone overboard, and I guess I'm not talking about the current FBI. I'm talking about agents who are long retired, because at one time, the FBI, when they were looking at Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King and a bunch of other troublemakers, were looking at the Monkees. The not simians, this was not some sort of creationism pushback. They were looking at Peter, Michael, Mickey, and Davey, the Monkees, Monkees, because, believe it or not, an agent went to one of their concerts and said that he saw subliminal messages depicted on the screen in which the opinion of an agent, in this agent's opinion,
It's pretty amazing he saw subliminal messages.
yeah, constituted left-wing innovations of a political nature, including video footage of anti-U.S. messages on the war in Vietnam. I didn't know the Monkees had such a interactive and multi-dimensional show back then, but this was probably the least offensive band ever, put together by a very middle-of-the-road television network. Who in the world thought we should be putting the Monkees under surveillance in case they're trying to undermine the will and the minds of our young people?
So they're the
Geek of the week.
So yeah, so the FBI, when they get carried away.
I thought that was rhetorical. Sorry.
Well, it was. That's why there was such a pregnant pause there. But because we have to follow the form, 1960s FBI. You're our Geek of the Week.
Me again.
There's an all-night party in room 7609. And you can dance together all night if you've got the time.
So I didn't really want to do another dark wave tune, but we promised you a month of dark wave music, and last week we got off course because I wanted to play some Blondie because I'd just seen Blondie and she was so great, and they are such a great new wave band, and it was a fun song. But Shawn insists that we keep to a very rigid format on this show, so we are giving you that dark wave tune you were due in August in this first week of September, brought to you by Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry, with a uplifting little dirge they call Talk About the Weather. positively uplifting.
I love it when you send me a song and I look at the title and the band and I don't know which one's
which is which. That's why I put the song title in
quotes. I know you
in
do.
quotation marks. But yeah, Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry were not around for a terribly long period of time, but they
terrible name for a band. Just want to throw that out there.
Well, lorry in England is a truck.
I know what it is,
and I think a red and yellow lorry is probably an ambulance because their markings they have the red and yellow checkerboard. But yeah, I guess they're kind of ominous in that way.
Yeah. The lorries?
The ambulances? Well, they did call themselves the lorries for a little while.
Well, there you go.
But if you hear a sound that kind of makes you think about the Sisters of Mercy, which I think are a much better known new wave, goth, dark wave band, it's because there's some shared DNA. One of the guys in Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry went on to play in The Mission with Wayne Hussey, who had played briefly with Andrew Eldritch in the Sisters of Mercy, and they have kind of a Nick Cave sound where it's a very dark, kind of brooding feeling. But
that's a good comparison, yeah.
But it's Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry. Shawn
loved it. He was dancing the whole
I actually
time.
did like that. I like that.
He skipped a trip to refresh himself to get to the very end of that song because he said, "I know it's going to end on a positive
high note." Yeah,
yeah, that was really nice.
Okay. Well, we love your suggestion. We had lots of suggestions.
Oh, I did kind of like it.
Okay.
For dark wave tunes. We will get to more of those, and we have other suggestions that we've gotten from you for our new wave music segment. So please keep them coming. You can send us both your suggestions as well as your comments to mlsoulofdetroit@gmail.com. And one of these days, somebody's going to call the Butterfield 8 line, which is 313 Butterfield 8. Is it 907?
One of these days, someone should check the line.
It's been so long. Yeah, for all we know, there's a bunch of calls waiting.
I'll check it right now.
Oh yeah, okay.
Forget to check it every once in a while.
That would be a good thing. I guess I could check it too, but I can't remember what the password
It's crazy.
is. Yeah, so we'll have to get to there. And
what if there's just tons of voicemails on here?
Well, then that's going to be the easiest show ever. We'll just do like Super Boner Line edition of the Soul of Detroit.
There's not that many.
But you can also reach out to us through our website, mlsoulofdetroit.com, where there's a little button out there that allows you to donate. And Mark, how do people do that?
mlsoulofdetroit.com. Donate button to the right at the top.
Bang, done. And
Pretty simple.
It's not that hard as people have proven. Bryant, once again, supports the show and leads the Shawn cheering section with, "That was the most Shawn has ever shared." And wow, what a share. William concurs with any chance of a Belvin Story of the Week segment. I think that's possible. We'll have to see what Shawn's appetite for. Perhaps that's something that could be a sponsored element of the show. And Todd adds, "Great shows, ML, in particular Mickey Stevenson and Matt Bissonette." Mickey Stevenson was the first A&R guy for Motown Records, and Matt Bissonette, local guy playing bass for bands such as Rick Springfield, David Lee Roth, and on tour now with Elton John. Todd says, "Where am I going to get this type of content? Great to hear Shawn talk so much today." Of course, he was talking about last week after today. I don't know if he's going to be quite as excited, but there was Shawn really,
Shawn's finally coming out of his shell.
He let his hair so far down it just fell straight off. So we really...
I lost it.
We appreciate that. Lots of feedback. And I'm going to start us off because Carter says, "Hey, ML, big fan of your podcast. Shawn was super interesting this week.
What happened?
Triple-digit Jaguar story and his dad buzzing the tower was good stuff. And I really enjoy your On Guard column." So, Carter, thank you. Thank you very much. And, fellas, you have any feedback from our large and loyal listeners and viewership that we should share?
Well, I'll do the first one because it kind of piggybacked off of those other ones. Kyle says, "Where's this version of Mr. Shawn Windsor been? He was very likable and kind. Was he ill?"
Because he is mean. I mean, that's the other thing.
I don't find him mean at all.
He's very mean to me. He's very cruel. He's
maybe deserve it. I don't know about likable.
Yeah, well, that was nice. What was his name? Who wrote that?
I already threw it away. No, it's Kyle.
Kyle, thank you, Kyle.
And Shawn, do you have anything you'd like to share with our listeners?
Sure. It's not about me, which is good because enough about me. This is from one ML to another.
Oh, Excellent.
I assume you wrote that.
No.
Really? That's actually somebody.
There's lots of MLs out there.
Our listeners are, nice.
There are.
Well, they wish they were.
Okay, from one Michael Lewis to another. Did your daughters have student loans coming out of MSU? Sorry if that's invasive. Just asking if you have any firsthand or recent experience with student loans and eye-popping college costs because I'd like your thoughts on Biden's $10,000 and $20,000 forgiveness.
Oh, this should have been a major topic.
Yeah, so I'm throwing that out because Shawn has kids in college. I do have two girls, one who's graduated, the other one who is in college. We've been fortunate that we, or maybe unfortunate, that we did not have any student loan debt that will be forgiven. But you know, I struggle with this because I do feel that this should be means tested, that there should be some way that if you are going to college and you took out loans because you really can't afford college, that those are the loans that should be forgiven. Because I've heard from lots of people who say, I took out student loans and I went on spring break. You know, I took out student loans because I think, unless things have changed, that you don't have to show them like a receipt from the university that says I borrowed $10,000 and here's how I used the money, that you could just pile up a ton of debt because debt, basically a credit line has been made available to you. And I would like to see maybe greater amounts of forgiveness for fewer people who have a bigger challenge, or for people who are going into a profession where there's not going to be a huge financial reward in it. There was just a piece in, I think the Washington Post talked about how there are fewer and fewer kids getting humanities degrees, you know, arts and history and teaching English and learning foreign languages, because it's been driven into them that they're never going to make any money. Journalism you could throw into that category, and you're just going to end up with a ton of debt. So you will never, ever have a comfortable living, and you'll be a slave to debt for the rest of your life. And I do think that people who do the arts contribute a lot to our society.
Absolutely.
They do, but do you need to go to college to do the art? I think it's flat out wrong to forgive these 10,000 ones. I just disagree with it on so many different levels. A, what does it really do?
Well, let me read 10, a little bit more.
Imagine too if the government said, "Hey, anybody who's making less than $125,000, which is kind of a high threshold, I think, you're going to get $10,000. The government's going to give you $10,000, but only if you went to college." I don't think it's fair, and economically, I don't think it's a good economic decision. I've yet to see one economist who says, yes, this is the right thing to do. That even Janet Yellen was trying to tell Biden not to do this.
Well, I do like that.
It is a ploy for votes, and I just think it's the wrong reason to do something. Is the college system broken? Probably. Yeah, there's a lot of people who went to college who shouldn't have gone to college. It's the paradox of the individual, where you tell every individual, yeah, you should go to college, you should go to college. But as a society, it's not good for everybody to go to college.
Right. And what about...
They don't need to. It's a waste.
Wasn't Biden and Obama going to make community college free? I mean, if we're going to make that much money available, maybe we should start by making the 2-year technical schools and community colleges free, because that is a way for people who might not even be able to dream of taking on the debt to going to college, a way to get into the higher education.
Well, some universities have started now having this tiered system where if you...
Michigan, right?
Michigan does it.
Yeah.
I know even like Harvard does it, to where if your income or your family's income is below a certain point, this is how much tuition is instead of a flat tuition rate. That's a great place to start. But the loans, I mean, some of the rates on the loans were a lot higher than I even knew they were. They're like 6, 7, 8%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which really surprised me. Now the average debt coming out of, and this is the average, the mean, is only $40,000, which is a lot lower than I even thought it was. So it's going to help some people, but is it the right thing to do? I think economically it's not, and I think morally it's not.
A little bit more to the question here. I
didn't know there was more. I'm sorry.
From one ML to the other. No. I wanted to get the conversation started.
A lot of wisdom in the ML.
Yeah. There's okay. So they want to know what you think about.
This is like
they want to know if you think will be a brain drain on the region, because there's research proving debt forgiveness triggers job and geographic mobility. When all of a chunk of your student loans are canceled, you're more likely to quit that job you hate, more likely to move out of state, especially those in a state struggling with population loss. And here's a personal anecdote. Including our son and daughter, we know dozens of middle-class state and Oakland grads who had an average of $20,000 to $30,000 in loans, lived with Metro parent or in a Royal Oak or a Detroit apartment, while working for 1 to 2 years to save money and pay off loans, then moved in with friends in Chicago or Nashville. In December, those sorts of middle-class kids are going to have the financial freedom to skip that boomerang home after college thing and just move out of the state now. And the forgiveness is going to hit their account in the peak of a cold and dreary Michigan winter. So she wants to know if you see this potentially hurting places like Michigan where young people want to leave anyway.
I don't know if they want to leave necessarily, but I mean, hey, who doesn't want to go to Chicago for a couple years? But
Sure.
Don't we want people to be free to move about the country?
Yeah, it's good for the economy.
Yeah, to me, I think, and frankly, I think if we want our communities to be better, we should probably incentivize them to make. So I was in Muskegon over Labor Day weekend, and the downtown Muskegon was one of these classic small towns downtown that got destroyed when malls were built, and there was a big family-owned department store downtown, and when the malls basically, they couldn't compete anymore, then it was a white elephant, and then they knocked it down, and they tried to have some urban investment to create some walking downtown thing, and it never really worked out well. They finally kind of got things right. And there's like a culinary school downtown. There's all these cool little distinctive bars and restaurants. And they have this thing called the Social District, where there's a strip of downtown Muskegon. They have festivals. The Polish festival is this weekend. They're going to have the Irish festival coming up. They have music festivals.
We're for the Chamber of Commerce?
I know. I should be. In fact, if you're looking for sponsorship opportunities, Muskegon Chamber of Commerce. But they have this thing called the Social District where you can walk around with an open drink because they want to encourage people to. And I was there on a Sunday afternoon, and there were young people in downtown Muskegon hanging out. I have never seen that before. And Muskegon came up with a way to make its downtown attractive. So I think we really want places to say kids can go anywhere. Let's make sure they want to come here, which benefits all of us, because I'm some old geezer hanging out in downtown Muskegon with young people who clearly found a reason to want to go there. And that's one of the reasons why I think we really do need some sort of government health care so that people can go for jobs in places where they think they're going to be able to achieve what it is they aspire to achieve without saying, oh, if I have to take this job, I won't get health care and I'm going to hit 26. And so, I mean, I think that encourages entrepreneurial people where they can say some of these things are covered. If you want to start a small business, how can you start a small business when you have all this debt? Nobody's going to loan you money. You're already afraid.
I don't agree with Mark, by the way, and I've seen economic reports that suggest the opposite. That it's going to act to some degree like a tax break. Now you can argue in the long run, right? I mean,
so are they going to
contribute to inflation? But
are they going to do this every year then?
Well, no, But
don't get me wrong. I'm very happy.
But what are they going to spend that money on if they pour it into the economy, right, or consumer goods and so on?
But it doesn't encourage colleges to make themselves more affordable. That's ultimately a problem.
That's a lot of other. Absolutely, that's absolutely right. But to Monica's point,
why did the federal government do it? And I have no problem
because they're federal. Because they're federal.
Anytime people can get free money,
federal government backed loans, right? And they're paying back the government. These aren't the loans that, like, my kids also have a private bank to supplement some other stuff, right? And there are plenty of families that do that. Or you can do cosigns or parent plus loans, although those are
part of it.
Those are part of the student federal government aid. Loans, But so they're paying back the government. That's why they did it. They're not paying back PNC.
No, I know, but why is that the right thing to do?
I don't know. We give different sectors of this society these kind of breaks, and we have forever, all the time, and we never question them. But we are now with college students. So, and I'm a little curious why.
Just because we haven't questioned them before.
We've done it to farmers forever. So why?
Oh, no, you're right. I'm not a fan of subsidies for the big farms either.
But maybe you say big farms now, but we've done it back when they were largely small farms. And we help save those farms. They produce food. I would argue you're helping to get these kids out.
Well, that almost helps competition against the larger farms.
Who are going to go on to be,
most of the subsidies.
To Mike's point, teachers and all sorts of folks that we need. Maybe they're not lawyers and doctors. There are lots of people that out there with degrees that go to an office somewhere and work on a computer and do something that is important to society. Right? So we're going to free those people up a little bit. They're going to spend a little bit more money. I know it's not perfect.
But then it's going to happen again. You don't think it's going to happen again?
Yeah, maybe it will.
Why wouldn't I take on a loan if I think there's a possibility that a portion of it might be forgiven?
Well, it won't be forgiven unless you take out the loan. So you still have to take out the loan, right? They're not just going to give you $10,000.
I would take out any loan if I knew there was a great 8% chance that part of it would be forgiven. So is it going to stop these kind of loans? No.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with it
can't
is
stop
it's
the
a
loan, right,
one-time
Mike?
thing, right?
Yeah, no, I know, and I'm with you guys on the cost of education. It is so deep in what's going on. You go over to your alma mater, go up to your alma mater, go to the dorms, look at what we're doing, look at the housing that we're building, look at the way a campus is. Do we need all that to teach people? I understand the labs and the research.
Well, so
that part I understand.
I think what happened, I don't know, I could be way off on this, but when states start cutting where they're spending money, one of the first places they go to is higher public education.
They do.
So those budgets get cut, and then these universities look at it and say, oh, well, there's a supply and demand here. We can charge a lot more because that supply's out there, because this lie has been pushed that everybody needs to go to college. And that's just a flat-out lie for the society, that everybody needs to go to college.
No, maybe not everybody, but it'd be the more people that go to college, I think that's usually good for society. And I love your community college idea. I've heard that floated. I think that's a great idea. It's like 2 more years of high school, if nothing else.
It's not good for society, though. Look how the trades have been decimated. Just decimated.
You can go study the trade. I would make that part of the first 2 years.
To me, community college,
Well,
vocational education. But the thing is, if you want to go into the trades, and you know, if you got somebody sitting on the couch at home, a lot of the unions around here have trade schools where your kid or your young person will be paid $15, $17 an hour while they acquire their journeyman's card or their certification or whatever it is.
I think
there's been a lot of people that
so that is out there. That is happening.
I don't
People
buy
just
the
need to
moral
take-
argument, though, because then we're just starting picking and choosing. We give people that own a home a tax break. We give people that are in an apartment that don't get, right? I mean,
I don't like
we
that
have
either.
made those decisions as a society forever and ever and ever about where to give tax breaks.
So now I actually would go that way. I'd say if we have an earned income tax credit for people who don't make enough money, that we don't want them to spend that little money they have on taxes, that's cool. Then maybe you give a college tax break. And I know there are tax breaks for kids who go to college, but I don't like any of these one-time fixes, so that we've picked this one group of winners and the next kids are like, it's sort of like
especially ahead of midterms.
When you have these promises,
transparent.
like the Detroit Promise, if your kid was born and went to college after the Detroit Promise, your kid doesn't get free college tuition. It's like, oh,
but
now
this
you gotta
isn't out of
start
nowhere,
somewhere.
right, Mike? This isn't out of nowhere. This has been discussed for a long. Biden talked about this when he campaigned. This has been, and people have talked about it before him. This isn't out of nowhere. That's I mean, whether you agree with it or not.
Sure, but
it's
is
just
it a program or is it a grant?
It sounds like a grant, right? It sounds like a tax break.
That's what I'm concerned
But
about.
is it not? Is it not fundamentally just a tax break?
It's
that we
almost,
don't know if we'll have the next
it's
again
kind of a,
and
it's
again
kind
and
of a
again.
rebate to people who have found a way to send their kid to college, or to kids who have somehow gotten through college with. And there are college programs like Pell Grants that do provide money to kids who have, who are basically on their own.
Were you surprised, Sean, at the threshold, though, of what was it?
Yeah, the
125
125 to me seems high, especially because it's not based on the parents. It's based on if you graduate and have the loan, it's you, right? So it doesn't really matter what your parents made. It's so 120.
If
How
you're
many
a kid
kids are
who's
coming out and
working
making
for
one?
Google, you don't get the 10 grand. I'm okay with that. Because there are kids who get out of college who are making 100 grand from Google and Amazon.
No, for sure there are,
Yeah.
but and
You pay
they
your
can
loans,
afford to
you
do
little
that.
shits.
And now you get into what about the people that paid off their loan?
That's like saying, what about the people that didn't have access to polio, the vaccine or whatever? I don't. To me, I don't worry about that. There are always going to be people behind us that didn't have what we have, and there are people ahead of us that are going to have things we don't have. But that's just a cycle of life.
But the question is, did this need to be done, and why was it done?
Why was it done?
That's a simple answer. This is a political vote grab.
Yes.
If we'd never heard a word about it until right now, yes.
It's not a serious fix either.
I would agree with that.
Problem.
Well, so anytime you do a one-time fix that costs that much, I wonder what else we could use that money for.
I mean, but how is it? Did we say when Trump appointed the justices he appointed, that was a vote grab? No, he ran on that.
Yeah,
He said, this is what I'm going to do to the Supreme Court, and people voted for him in part because they wanted him to do it, And it's the same with Biden. He ran on this, and one of the reasons some young people voted for him because they were hoping he'd do it, and they've been waiting and waiting and waiting.
Yeah, and Bush and Trump and Biden all authorized one-time payments to people
They
because
did.
they thought the government. I mean, I think didn't Bush send everybody $1,000? And I mean, that was clearly.
I want to say it was $625.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, he did the same. They all do it. They say, "This is what I want to do. I'm going to run on this, and if I get it elected, I'm going to do it."
But I will say that went to every single
works.
person. Now it's going
Right.
well. Only if you have a loan that you didn't pay off. It just it feels really.
Yeah, but if Jeff
not
Bezos
fair.
got $625, I'm going to be pissed off.
Yeah, well, remember a lot of
125 is
a lot of
high.
people declined it. I don't know if you remember that or not. Some people declined it. Other
They did.
people made a big show of donating it.
125 is high for sure
That's kind
for
of
a, for a 24-year-old, right? I mean,
it was.
if you're single and making
something that needed to be
125
fixed,
grand,
and I think it was the wrong way to.
you
fix
can pay that. I would imagine off fairly painlessly.
I think I worked 6 years before I made $125,000 in total in my career. You know?
Oh, in total.
I also know.
No, I mean, I was making less
You know,
than 20 grand a year for the first
Thinking
5 or
about
6
people our age, I mean, you know how much school was a credit hour when I went to start at the University of Texas? It was $4. $4 an hour.
No,
my tuition was like $200 my
go.
freshman year.
There
my
you go.
freshman, $200.
And that 45-year-old woman paid it.
No, you know, and even if you account for inflation, right? Yeah, that's nice. Even if you account for inflation,
Services rendered.
You've seen the
well, we talked about that the prices are out of control. Does this do anything to stop it? Nope.
No, that's got to be addressed too, and I don't know how.
It almost encourages people to continue to take out the same loans.
How do you? Yeah, but if they don't take out the loans, they don't go to school, and we want people to go to school as a society. We really, really do.
If they want to go to school.
Though, if they want
no,
to,
not all of them, but I'm just saying.
To ML's point, that's what he's saying. There was a push. Everybody needs to go to school, and believe me, I have 2 daughters. I'm telling them to go to school. I mean, that's the paradox. Just like I'm telling them, I'm going to tell them to save their money. I don't want everybody in this country saving their money. I want them to keep spending it. It's good for the economy.
Well, you want them to do both, right?
Yeah, but I just think there'd be a better way to attack it than just 10,000.
No, I'm sure there is a better way. I don't know. I don't know what that way is, but school costs, that's a different issue, and that needs to be. Yeah, it's not sustainable.
So, Monica Lewis, I hope that answers your question.
Right? Yeah. Anyway.
So, yes.
I'll save this one for next time.
For next time?
I do want to do it, but we're late.
Okay. I'm gonna hit real quick too.
Yikes!
Jennifer
Where's
says,
Cyrus?
Enjoyed your nonprofit scam column on Kwame and Lee Chatfield. Do Kwame and Chatfield have Michigan pensions from their time in the legislature? Does Kwame also have one from Detroit? If yes, are they already collecting? So Jennifer is referring to an On Guard column that ran a couple weeks ago talking about Kwame Kilpatrick and Lee Chatfield. Kwame Kilpatrick, former mayor of Detroit. Lee Chatfield, former Speaker of the House, one a Democrat, one a Republican, both very horny, and both used a lot of their nonprofit money to satisfy their libido and other things. So Kilpatrick did have a pension from the legislature and is able to collect it. I believe Chatfield does too, although I haven't verified that. What Kilpatrick did not have, if I recall correctly, is the very generous lifetime health insurance that came with retiree benefits for lawmakers back then. The legislature did scale back its benefit program for former lawmakers around the time we went to term limits, but they do still have some help. And I do not believe that Kilpatrick has a Detroit pension, but he probably had some sort of benefit plan like a 401k, and I don't think that ever got
Is pension, is that untouchable to get the money back that he owes?
That's a good question. I mean, they couldn't touch OJ's pension,
which is
right?
why he moved to Florida specifically for that reason, so they couldn't touch his NFL pension.
Oh, is it because one of the things in Florida, which is why Steve Wilson always kept his residence, Steve Wilson, former investigative reporter at Channel 7, kept his residence there, is if you lose a lawsuit, your house is an asset that can never be seized.
Touched.
So I don't know if pension qualifies too, but
I believe that was one of the reasons, the house and that, they wouldn't be touched.
Okay, but as far as I'm aware, no one has tried, if they have the ability to do so, to take Kilpatrick's pension or any retiree benefits he may have had from the city of Detroit or the state of Michigan to help make his restitution up. And Jennifer goes on to talk about Debbie Stabenow's pension. she does have one because she was in the legislature for a long time and back when they really got a really sweet deal. Jennifer also asked,
so ridiculous.
if the term limit thing passes, will Chatfield be eligible to run for his state rep seat again?
Another great question.
Because this is one of these deals where they want to change our term limits. We're still going to have term limits, but now they're giving people an option of serving all of their time in one chamber, the Senate or the House, which in some scenarios will give them less overall time, but more time in one chamber. So you can decide, I'm a House guy. I'm going to do, 7 terms there instead of just 3.
Okay.
Or I'm a Senate guy and I'm going to do X number of terms there instead of maxing out my 6 years in the House and then getting 8 in the Senate for 14 overall. It's kind of a weird plan. And I think the only reason we have such a goofy plan is because the people who support this think it's the only thing they can possibly get past voters.
This is the referendum. This one is on the ballot?
I believe it will be. But yeah, I would think Chatfield would be eligible to run for his state rep seat unless he's convicted of a crime. And we do believe he's being investigated. But if he's convicted of a crime that's related to his time in office where he abused his position to enrich himself, then he would be ineligible to run for state office or local office for the next 20 years. So he could be back, but more to go there. And Judy says, tragic story in Memphis over the weekend. Eliza Fletcher, a 34-year-old teacher and mother of 2, kidnapped while she was jogging just off the campus of the University of Memphis at 4 a.m. She's a marathoner and lived in Memphis near campus, which looks to be a Sherwood Forest or University District, which is a very nice historic neighborhood in the inner city. Her husband was home. He called 911 around 7 a.m. when she didn't return from her normal 4 a.m. run, which if you're a marathoner could take several hours. The suspect is an ex-con who got out of prison 2 years ago. Both Detroit and Memphis are fairly dangerous. Both are about the same population with north of 300 homicides each year. Comment section and social media chatter seized on what kind of man lets his naive wife endanger herself running alone in skimpy running gear at 4 a.m. around such a dangerous town versus women can run wherever and whenever they want. I know you raised your family in the city, so I'm curious if you let your wife and kids walk around solo at all hours, or did you strongly advise them not to? And what are Shawn's and Mark's thoughts in this regard? Always enjoy listening. Judy from Sherwood Forest. I mean, first, if an adult woman wants to do whatever an adult woman wants to do, that's pretty much it, right? Does it get more complicated than that?
Well, it's pretty easy to jump on the husband now, right? Because of what happened.
She's a marathon.
She's probably run plenty of times. In the video and the photos, it seemed like the guy's caught on video, right? He's caught on video committing the crime, and she's running where it's lit. I don't know that area. I would hope there's a measure of safety that they use when she jogged.
Well, plus you have crazy people going all over the place. I mean, Ted Kaczynski lived where? Out in
middle of nowhere, right?
Montana or something. Mm-hmm. I would have run a marathon bare naked at any time of the day in Montana and figured I'd be okay. But
except for the bears.
Oh, really?
They blend in.
They're attracted by the menstruation.
Oh.
That's Anchorman. Please.
Exactly.
That's
no, I got you.
It's pop culture reference.
And then what you said, that's just great. Now we're all gonna die.
Save your calls and letters. Yeah, that's
Paul Rudd.
I do find it amazing though.
No, Steve Carell, but then Paul Rudd. But then Paul Rudd says that's just great.
Yeah,
I do imagine
you're putting the newsroom in danger. Sorry, Mark.
No. The frustrating thing about the story is the guy who kidnapped her just got out and only got, I think, 20 years for another kidnapping, which I don't know. I don't feel like 20 years is not enough, but for kidnapping an adult human.
No.
Yeah,
But I think the guy that was kidnapped asked for a lenient sentence. He was a professor, a Yale professor, or is a Yale professor. So,
Then it sounds like he owes this other person's family an apology.
Yeah, he certainly didn't get rehabilitated in prison.
But if you're a marathoner and you have a family and you have a full-time job, 4 a.m. may be the only time where you can get in your 19-mile run before you start your day. I will just tell you, as far as
calling the police at 7, yeah, I'm sure he didn't wake up until then. He probably
if she's running 20 miles, it's going to take a few hours. But I'll just tell you this: for better or for worse, nobody in my family has ever said, "Is it okay if I run 20 miles, Dad?" That's never been an issue at my house, so I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that. But I will say, when my girls were growing up, when I was a kid, the biggest thing you could do is ride a bike. You got a bike that was huge.
Yeah, we talked about that at the top of the show, right? Mm-hmm. It's been so long ago, though.
Learning to ride a bike. Yeah. Oh, there's the Shawn we know. But we were conscious that we didn't want our kids learning to ride a bike when they're real young, because when you ride a bike, the first thing you want to do is ride as far as you can. Yeah. And you don't have to ride too far from my house to get into a neighborhood where I just don't want a little kid wandering around on their own. And we live on a busy street and all those other things.
Yeah, they could fall into the St. Clair Lake St. Clair.
But once you're they could,
I know what you mean.
They could ride many miles. But
if block or two.
if you
it's nice to live near Sandy Beach,
well, with global warming, I may have lakefront property.
You might.
If that shelf falls off of Greenland, baby, ML Beach coming. But yeah, she's an adult woman. Yeah,
I'm with you.
The whole story sucks.
It does.
And Mark, you said I had some shitty comments posted on my Michigan Republican Party is
but I don't have
Trumpy.
it up.
Okay.
Yeah. No, read them. They're just wonderful. Read them on your own free.
Next week.
I read the comments on this show, but the ones that they post on the Free Press, I tend not to, because
I'll start curating them for you. I'll start pulling them.
I don't know if I need to.
No, I don't read it. I don't read them either. Plus, they just end up arguing with each other anyway. So
well, that's where it gets hilarious. Is you'll write about Michigan State. Next thing you know, it's an argument about Trump.
Yeah,
always. Doesn't matter what the story is.
It's so true.
Ridiculous.
Now, those people, I would like to go and run some marathons just so they can get out of the damn house.
Yeah.
Carlos and Shawn podcast coming up. What are you guys talking about?
Oh, we got Dave Burkett, the great Dave Burkett, that covers the lines for the Free Press, because the lines are starting this week. There you go.
Sharing some of his favorite recipes.
Yeah. We might talk a little bit of food.
Burkett biscuits.
We might talk
maybe
a little
he can
food.
make it.
People do need to eat.
He does a very good smoked Burkett skit.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
On Texas toast.
Before the first game, there's so much excitement and, once again, hope about the lines. And I'm not going to
As always.
I'm not going to ask ML because he'll just shit all over him. No, not as always. I feel like there's more.
There is more now, but there's usually
that won 3 games last year.
There's usually a little bit of hope, but there's a lot more buzz this year for sure.
You're right, and I guess those 3 games were won in the last 7 games,
5 games.
Finished strong, just like the Tigers did last year. What is going to be considered a disappointment? How many games do they need to win for people to go, oh, okay, fine, that's the lines.
It's 6 or 7, I think, would show some progress. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say 8.
That I think if they win 8 games, I think people would be happy. Yeah.
Well, I think anything less than that is a failure.
Maybe. I don't know. It depends on how they lose. I just want
you on record.
Yeah, it just depends on how they lose.
Bring back Jim Caldwell.
They should not lose to the Eagles at home, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, Philadelphia's good.
No, I know. But they're at home. They shouldn't lose to them.
Well, we'll see. They're
high standards.
They beat them 44-6 last year.
Yeah, well, it's a new year.
Yeah, so we'll see. So anyway, kicking off the Lion season. What else you got?
That's it. I think we just encourage people to check out the other Red Shovel Network shows. That's a Charlie LaDuff No BS News Hour, and of course, the Drew and Mike Show. And until next week, Cyrus, take us out.
Can you dig that? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Although no one official is prepared to comment, religious groups are calling it the soul of Detroit.
It is vital that you stay in your homes.
And subscribe to YouTube channel MLL.
So, what's the plan? Bash him in the head, that seems to work out.